To other headlines, we are learning more about why the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development is investigating East Tennessee-based Clayton Homes. A 2016 letter from 4 congressmen asking for the federal investigation claims Clayton Homes and its subsidiaries discriminate against low-income minority borrowers and misled them into high-cost loans.
Today, 10 News reporter Mark Salinger talked with a former employee turned critic of Clayton Homes. Mark?
Robin and John, the letter says the investigation should look into whether the company is violating federal law by engaging in unfair business practices that target minority communities.
It's one of the largest companies and employers in East Tennessee. Now the multi-billion-dollar manufactured home giant, Clayton Homes, is under federal investigation. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development confirms it is investigating a fair housing complaint into the company and its subsidiaries. News of the investigation comes more than 2.5 years after 4 congressmen asked for the federal probe. Reports from the Seattle Times and BuzzFeed led the congressman to question Clayton Homes and its subsidiaries about whether it discriminates against low-income minority borrowers and misled them into taking high-cost loans.
I didn't feel ethically capable to work there anymore.
Gwen Shablik worked at Clayton Homes from 2011 to 2014. Federal investigators interviewed her last August. She says she saw discriminatory practices firsthand.
Do you believe that Clayton Homes actively discriminated against minorities?
Yes, I do. Ultimately, that's the reason why I left, and they do discriminate against minorities.
The allegations detail what the congressmen call highly problematic lending and collections practices. The letter explains Clayton Homes, Vanderbilt Mortgage, and 21st Mortgage steered low-income minority borrowers into taking loans they couldn't pay back. That left borrowers susceptible to default. Shablik says many of the loan documents were not made available in languages other than English.
Because a majority of those in the minority population did not fully understand the loan documents, those were the majority of people that we were collecting on.
The letter also questions Clayton's collection practices, saying they were problematic and failed to provide meaningful options for distressed borrowers.
There were probably some practices that they were doing that were discriminatory. I mean, I hate to say it was intentional, but it came across as being intentional.
In a statement to 10 News, Clayton Homes writes, over its 60-year history, Clayton Homes has built a culture of compliance and does not tolerate discrimination of any kind in its interactions with customers. Clayton also says its lenders were the subject of more than 40 routine agency examinations, which resulted in no fines. Robin and John will send it back to you. All right.